Greg Watts, how are you, man?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Doing okay. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective with the creative community. Um, the background that you have in music and music industry, I think will be very, very helpful, especially for those here in the States.
It's great to be here. Look forward to sharing.
Excellent. Let me give a brief introduction here for you, for the audience, so they get a feel for who you are and what you've done so far in your career. You are a international songwriting proponent. You're the co-founder of DWB, one of the UK's most successful independent songwriting, production, and publishing teams, selling millions of units worldwide and becoming a leading publisher in Japan and in South Korea, long before K-pop and J-pop were on anyone's radar. You're a Eurovision trailblazer. You pioneered Eurovision as a serious career platform for UK songwriters, amassing 18 entries across 11 consecutive years and serving as a BBC music consultant on the 2019 You Decide TV show, helping select the UK's Eurovision entry. You're best-selling author and mentor. You're the author of Keeping the Dream Alive, an Amazon bestseller and an active mentor coaching songwriters, including neurodiverse creatives, to help find their strengths and build their networks and pursue success on their own terms. You're a champion of the underdog, a self described defender of the underdog. You have turned personal adversity, rejection, and near exit from the music industry in 2003 into a mission to help songwriters and creatives refuse to settle, embrace the journey, and claim their place in the music world. That is a tremendous turnaround into success.
Yeah, it's nice hearing it back. It sounds good because it didn't all happen at once, of course, but actually, yeah, it's really nice to hear the some of it. So,
Excellent, excellent. So, as I start these off, I only have one structured question, and it's always the first one, and that is, where were you born, and what was life like as a kid for Greg?
so I was born in I was a place called Red Hill in Surrey, England, which is about 20 minutes from Gatwick Airport. Gives you a bit of location. About 50 minutes south of London.
Okay.
And what was life? So I was born in Red Hill, but we lived in Reigate, which was like the slightly. Red Hill was, how do we say it? Red Hill was the slightly, without the cheaper one, and Reigate was a
Okay. Yeah.
bit more expensive.
Yeah.
But we were kind of on the edge of the two communities. So I look back and think, my family upbringing, I had a really good upbringing, I would say. I was safe. That's one of the most important things about upbringings, I
For
think.
sure. Yeah.
I look back now and think actually we were quite poor. We lived in a quite a big house, quite a nice house, which was on the edge of the, you say, between the poorer and the richer estate, and we were almost the divide in some ways, in not in a bad way, but it was that's where the divide happened, and but it's like my parents have invested in a nicer house, which meant that they could have people, they could host people.
Okay.
And I guess my early life is very influenced by that because I had a brother and sister. I had the church youth group. I had several foster brothers and sisters come in
Oh, wow.
and go
Okay.
during my time scale. We kind of adopted people without saying it was, it
Yeah.
just came. And my friends now, so I'm now in my early 50s, 51, let's say, not early 50s sounds a bit older. Um, and quite a few of my old school friends have told me recently that they came to my house because it felt safe, and
Oh,
we were like the house that just let everyone come in and welcome them and had the last pot noodle and that sort of thing. Whereas, so they may have been unsafe at home, but
yeah.
I didn't know that at the time. So now
Right.
I look back, I remember growing up thinking, oh, there's too many people in the house. But now I kind of feel like I've really benefited from that. And I think my musical career is a lot to do with the records that were being brought in, the music that was coming in from older people older
Yeah.
youth group people, cousins, this sort of thing. So it was all influencing me as I was going. So.
Okay. And what type of work did your mom and dad do at that point in time?
So my dad was a PE teacher. He
Okay.
was PE teacher from the day I was born till the day he retired.
All right.
And he still beats me at, well, no, we haven't played for 10 years, but he was still beating me at squash. And I was quite good at squash. He's like one of those, you're almost beating him and then suddenly he beats you right at the end. Always the case.
Yeah.
My mum was a trained PE teacher. That's how they met. PE is physical education, so sports in England. And she never really got to teach because she had my brother, then she had me, and then she had my sister. So she was a housewife, homemaker. Brilliant to have your mum at home. This was in the 80s. It's very, very common to have that. She did go into child minding and looking after kids and
Okay. Yeah.
that sort of thing later as we grew up. But yeah, so they were both trained as teachers.
Okay. How about grandparents? What types of work did they
Um,
do? Or did you even know
Grandparents.
them as
No,
your,
no, I did know them. I had so only one grandparent I didn't know. He died before I was around, but I
okay.
did have two sets of grandparents because one had remarried. So I kind of feel like
Gotcha.
my replacement granddad was a real granddad as well. You know, in a sense, because that's all I knew. Although my mum, it's her dad that she lost, will always say that I was very like the granddad that I didn't know. So one set, my dad's side was. Again, housewife. Um, my grandma, amazing host again. You'd go and she just, everything was, she wouldn't let you sit, she wouldn't let you go hungry at all. You cup of tea, cake, everything. Her husband, he used to, originally was in the army. So he was in World War II and he drove the tank carriers
Okay.
the lorries that drove the tanks, carried the tanks out in Nepal. I remember him telling me sort of stories about Nepal and India. Um,
Gotcha.
we grew up. He always used to take us for curries because he loved that. But he used to make the kitchen area in planes.
Okay.
They lived near a place called Farnborough, which had an airport, and they were one of the places that made planes. My other grandparents, she again was housewife, homemaker mainly. Um, they did have a post office at one point, postal office, but he was very much into finance and worked for insurance companies and
Okay.
sort of administration and that sort of thing as well.
Gotcha. Was there any creative vein or creative family within your peripheral that you saw that may have had that trickle down to you being the creative of the family?
Not, it's interesting. I mean, my grandfather that I didn't know, I believe was musical. My mum was musical. She did play the guitar and right, but she
Okay.
wasn't really doing it a lot when I was younger. I think
Gotcha.
what influenced me most is they had a record player, as most houses did in the 80s, and
Yeah.
they had their records from the 1960s, the Beatles, the Everly Brothers,
Yeah.
Shawaddy Waddy, and Manfred Mann.
Hmm.
So one of my earliest memories is linked to a song called Do a Diddy, which for some reason I remember dancing, standing on my bed, sort of dancing to this record, which is there she was walking down the street singing Do a Diddy Diddy Dum Diddy Do, and it coincided with my great grandmother walking down the street. So I've always got that. Every time I hear that song, I've got that as a memory of my great grandmother who used to come and visit us, and so just to trigger memory. Um,
Yeah.
and the other side, not really musical. I think again, it may have skipped a generation. One of the great granddads was piano player, but
Okay.
I should say I think it was they had a record player. We had their records. My cousin, who was 6 or 7, maybe 8 years older than me, we kind of fostered. He kind of lived with us a bit more.
All right.
He used to bring his Madness records and his Orchestral Maneuver in the Dark records. And they also ran a youth group which had lots of girls in particular who used to bring their Wham records,
Okay.
which I hated at the time. I was like, I don't want to know about Wham. It's a girl, but now actually yeah, it did have a big influence, and I really do like some Wham and obviously
Yeah.
George Michael.
Right.
So it was just music around the house all the time
Yeah.
being played.
That's fantastic. I think that absolutely shapes uh, a child's perception if they're, presented with music early on.
Yeah,
It definitely enhances a lot of their um, creativity, their
yeah,
views, things, all that type of stuff.
yeah.
How
And I
about,
guess I
go ahead,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say, I guess so 1983, 84, 85, that sort of era is when I was really starting to get into it. And this is when the synthesizer was suddenly coming out,
Yeah,
the MTV,
yeah,
Live Aid, those sort of all events that started to sort of spark, oh, this is exciting. This is, worldwide, spark dreams in those. So it was very much, and the charts in the UK, that was, most kids will tell you that they used to sit on the bed on Sunday afternoon and we'd record the charts, stop and start. We're not allowed to, but you'd record the songs that you liked to stop them. And I remember
yeah,
writing, I would write them out. I'd write one top 40, it was in England, and I'd write them out. And then the next week I'd write them out again. So it was a big part of life was what's number one.
yeah,
My kids are 16 now. They, if I say to them, oh, number one, they kind of look at me and think, what's number one mean? It's not there anymore. But that was very much in the 80s was bigger part of kids' culture, I would say.
yeah, for sure, for sure. How about elementary school? Were you one of those kids that would prefer to sit in the back of the class and not really have to participate much or get noticed? Or were you one that veered more towards the front or maybe even the middle where you could be just at the right place to be seen or interact?
I think it changed. I think at the beginning I was very shy and I
Okay.
wanted to be not seen. And I was reasonably intelligent. I remember being quite high in maths and doing some of the higher papers and things like that.
Uh-huh.
But I was definitely a shy kid. So first school and the middle school, and then it changed. We merged with a different school during our middle school,
All
and it was
right.
the last year. And we were ahead of the other school by a long way. So we almost repeated a year because they could, and I got very bored. And also, they had some people who were a lot more, let's say, a little bit more naughty, or
Okay.
um, or a bit more fun, maybe. And I don't know. So because I was bored, I
Yeah.
kind of started to mess around a bit then. And then at that point, I guess I was starting to put my hand up and move to want to be at the front and want to be. Um, so it changed a bit, and there was definitely some incidents where there's one in particular, a teacher kind of really ridiculed me at secondary school, and I thought at this point I'm going to go first rather than last because she ridiculed me for what I said,
Yeah.
and so then I started to put on a character, I think,
Okay.
um, which is what I've learned because as a shy person, being asked to speak in a class is a terrible, I'd go
Yeah.
red. I wouldn't know what to say. But now I actually talk in front of international events. So something happened to shift
Right.
that. And I think partly it's playing a character.
Were you also shy at home as well with having all of the friends and family and then also to the foster children coming in? Did that create a sense of shyness in you as well?
I don't remember feeling shy at home as much. I
Okay.
think it was, again, I don't know. I think home was a safe,
Right.
loving, free environment. Um, and people just came and go. I don't feel like it's a bit different because I think you just
Yeah.
feel safe. And the worst comes, you go up to your room and play your records,
Right. Right.
which is I did quite often.
Okay.
I remember my mum and dad had a church house group in those days, and they'd come and they'd sing worship songs downstairs, and I'd be
Uh-huh.
competing with them upstairs, trying to turn my records up higher than their
Then their voices.
voices. So yeah, fun.
Yeah, that's interesting that you felt you had to put on a character to be able to fit in quite a bit. Did you see that take place? Maybe hanging around some of those youth that were not necessarily rule followers, so to speak, that were acting out as you described.
Yeah, I guess one of them in particular, a guy called Jason. He was just a fun character. He now, yeah, I mean, I know he had some trouble at home in a sense, and he would come out of and just live life and be a bit more risque, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, I was. I was a good boy, in a sense, and which isn't a bad thing in a sense, but there was an element of, I don't know. I think the shyness really did was is, and that really ran in the family. Looking back, my dad was shy,
Okay.
and I think it comes from. We've mentioned neurodiversity. I think there's a lot of that in my family, and I don't know if the shyness is directly related, or some of us have had neurodiversity, and some of us have had shyness, but it was
Uh-huh.
really deep shyness. It was.
Okay.
It's interesting because I've got 16-year-old twins, and one of them is shy. No,
Okay.
listen, well, they're both shy, but one of them I remember being shy at school and seeing her go red, very much like I did, and thinking, oh, because she's like me. But also, she would learn the Christmas play, and she'd learn the whole thing. She could act it out at home.
Oh, wow.
But then when I said, "Well, who are you playing at school?" Oh, I'm the sheep. And he's like, "What does a sheep say?" He just goes bar. And you're like, "But you know the whole thing. Why aren't you one of the big roles?" And it was like, again, I think she's safe, loving environment, felt safe. She could act,
Yeah.
went into the school, and it's like, very, very shy. So
Right.
it's interesting. And I think I was very, very similar. Again, did she put on the act or was it the real? I think actually maybe the real self is allowed to come out in places. And again, maybe when I was with Jason, he was able to press the buttons that the real character of me came out because I was actually quite fun, but I kept myself quiet just in case, because
Right. Right.
in case I embarrassed myself in a sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. I understand the shyness component. I failed every speech class that I ever had, even into college.
Yeah.
I failed because I would never get up to do the final speech. We would work on the projects, all the way up and I would do everything all the way up until the final speech. And then when it was time to get up and, take everything that you put together with the whole project and then present it to everybody, I was like, nah, I can't do that.
Mm. Yeah, you became a podcaster.
Right. It's wild
So,
because this has only been a year and 3 months now that I've been doing this.
mm,
And even 6 months before I started the podcast, I would have bet you $1 million that I would never be doing this. So,
change. Yeah.
yeah, and it came through, the change came through an actual healing journey that I did with a lady that I work with. Her name's Marilyn Edwards. She's in St. Augustine, Florida, and she's a intuitive healer. I don't know if you're familiar with intuitive healers or medical intuitives or anything like that, but
Yeah.
her work, what she's able to do is she's able to tap into your energy field and kind of pinpoint where you have these held traumas, whether it's something current in this life or it's something that was passed down generationally
Mhm.
with the family, different things like that. But we worked on something that had to do with me being in front of people and communicating. And once we worked through that process, it like opened a door to change. Now, I haven't been in front of a group and done any speaking since I started
Mm.
doing this, but I imagine at some point in time that might be a possibility.
Yeah.
Um, and also, too, I've always been someone who had to know what was going on in every type of situation so I could make sure that I was pre planning for a scenario where I always made sure I was in safety.
And control as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
control for sure.
yeah, yeah.
So it's definitely interesting that number one, I am doing this. Number two, that also I understand the perspective of being that shy kid, that one who doesn't. I would rather sit back and just watch everybody
Mm.
and observe.
And this again, one of my daughters is very much like that, and then she'll spring up with this gem, and I think that's kind of why I was watchful and thoughtful, and then would say the right thing at the. I just was thinking, isn't it funny though that schools make you do all the work and then make everyone do the same? You must all present it because in business, I've
Yeah.
got a team of people, and Pete here is fantastic,
Okay. Yeah.
amazing genius writer, but he won't mind me saying has quite a bad stammer.
Okay.
So when he speaks in public, he doesn't do it with me now. He feels safe. But if he
Right.
speaks in public, you suddenly think, oh yeah, he's got. So he's not the best public speaker.
Right.
So I wouldn't ask him to speak. I can do that role. Then someone else can do this role. Someone else. So, but at school, you all have to do everything and do it really well. And it's like, well, that's not like the world. We're all
Yeah.
strong at certain things.
Yeah.
Why don't we focus on the things we're strong on? You know, build our strengths.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think if we were able to shift the structure of learning, education, all of that, and to highlight what an individual's strengths are versus what, they may be uncomfortable at, I
Mm.
think that we would see a whole lot more of success
Yeah.
stories taking place in the world. Because even from the business standpoint, like you're saying, you wouldn't try and put him in a position where he had to speak in front of a whole lot of people because you understand where his strength is and where he gets a bit uncomfortable. And I
Yeah.
think that's huge, especially from a leadership position.
Mm.
And I think that's uh, a telling um, characteristic that many leaders in positions throughout companies and industries don't always take into consideration.
Mm.
And for myself, I learned that early on when I first started going to work at 16 and earning a paycheck. By the time I was 18, because of the abilities that I had to do the job, they ended up putting me in a position of management, um,
Mm.
running shifts and different things like that. And I always remembered, like, when I started, I was scared to death to even start the job. And it
Mm.
took me a good 3, 4 weeks before I finally got into a comfortable place of knowing I can do this. I know how to do it. I know all the steps to do it. So when I got into those positions of, having to be in charge of other people, I always remembered what I felt like.
Yeah.
I tried to make sure that they didn't have to feel that way. So I would try to quickly assess what is the thing that they're really good at? Where did I see them being most comfortable? And I
Mm.
just made sure that that was something that they were doing on a regular basis.
Yeah. Because then they'll excel, in a
Exactly.
sense. So, and running a ship that's excelling in different places is much better than trying to put everyone in places they're not going to work and it
Yeah.
sinks, in a sense. So yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. With all of the different people that were coming in and out, did that also give you a perspective from the home life of different elements within people, characteristics that allowed you to see, okay, this is how this person acts, this is how this other person acts, and allow you to be able to assess that early on at that point in time?
I don't know if I did it consciously, if you know,
Okay.
because I think when you're a child and a teenager, you're kind of just living. I now look back and think, yes, I definitely was, because I was I don't know, I was in the cool club, but I didn't fit in the cool club, if that makes sense. Um, but I could also flitter around the other groups and find
Yeah.
interesting people. So it's a bit like I wasn't worried about what people thought so much. I was more I don't know. It was odd. I definitely, looking at it, I was picking the best of everyone out,
Yeah,
and you know, making sure I was. I don't know why. Maybe I was empathetic or sympathetic to some people that are in different situations. More so,
yeah,
definitely some of them that came through the house. It made you aware of, wow, my life's okay compared to theirs.
sure.
But more so when you've gone past it and think, oh yeah, I really did learn from that stuff. Because I think when you're going through it, you're not, especially as a young teenager, you're not analyzing, or you're just living it in those days, I think. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Moving into high school for you,
mm.
uh, was that a time where you felt you were more easily able to allow yourself to be more expressive and less shy?
Yeah. I say I had on my first day of high school, I had this incident where a teacher basically they said it's quite interesting. I do this exercise now. I say, tell me who you are and an interesting fact. I usually say, are you a songwriter? So she said, right, first day of school, who are you? Tell us an interesting fact about you. It has to be different to what everyone else says. And
Okay.
they went round the room, and I'm sat there shy, going, "No, I don't want to be me," sweating, going red.
Yeah.
So it got to me, and I was about the last one. And I'm thinking, what do I say? So I just said, I'm Greg and I like football. So soccer for, and she said, I can't believe you said every young boy likes football. Don't be so ridiculous. Really, really, it's like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with this woman? Why is she so aggressive? But at that point, you're just like shrinking up, thinking, what am I going to do? And I remember felt really bad. All these new people I didn't know, so few people I knew, but it was your first day at school. I kind of felt like I wanted the earth to swallow me up.
Right.
And I remember making a decision that point, or going home and thinking, I'm never having that again. I'm always going to go first.
Okay.
So she did English and drama, and every time we did drama, I went first.
Right.
And it was like I then forced myself to not be shy. And
Yeah.
again, I still had the sweats and the this and the that and the blah blah blah. But
Right.
afterwards, you sat there and went, "Oh, this is interesting. I can watch everyone else, and I'm enjoying it." Whereas when I was going last, you're not really in, you're squirming and not really there, and blah blah blah. So there's an element of that changed my life. She shouldn't have done it, but in a way, it made me go, right. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going first. So
Yeah.
that brought me. I think spending the time with Jason messing around in the previous year had started to free me up. We did stupid things like jumped out the windows to get my pen and shut the window behind me, and the teacher's going, "What are you doing out?" So it was we had fun at school. I didn't focus as much as I should have done, and probably started to focus later,
Okay.
2 or 3 years into it, and then didn't do as well as I could have done if I had a focus. But I actually remember my school life as fun, which a lot of
Yeah.
people don't. Um, so I was definitely freer and becoming more like myself, and I was starting to write songs,
Right.
starting
Okay.
to run a business in the playground.
Oh, really?
Yeah, used to sell records in the playground as well, which made a little bit of money. But bad business in those days is I like records, so of course I'd sell the records and buy new ones. So
Right.
as in I'd buy my own, so I wasn't making a profit, but it gave me money to buy records. But it taught me money in, money out, that sort of thing, and so I was becoming myself. I do remember. No, I haven't thought about this role, but I was 6 foot when I was 11.
Okay.
So I was the biggest in that year with
Yeah.
one or two others.
Yeah.
We matured earlier than the other boys. The girls were all mature, but the boys tend to mature a couple of years. So it did mean I got picked on by the years above.
Really?
Because when you go in somewhere and you're the tallest or you're the biggest, it's like the others are there. We're going to take that one
Okay.
down.
Gotcha.
So I was forever going around thinking, oh, trying to avoid a fight or trying to, because I was big,
Yeah.
and actually I retaliated sometimes and won a few. I don't, I'm not proud of that, but you fight back in a sense.
Yeah.
But it was just, I do remember having that little bit of fear that I can't quite just walk around and be myself because there was other aggressive boys around. But I
Yeah.
was changing into much less. I was still shy around girls. Crikey, you know, looking again. I've got some stories of more recently. I found out that some of the girls that actually were hanging around me and my two friends, which I thought were hanging around my two mates, and I was because I'd pick up the pieces and look after them after they.
Yeah.
Found out that two or three were no, we were hanging around for you, Greg. And I was like, oh. But I didn't know, and if I really liked someone, I didn't know what to do. I just went
Yeah.
red and didn't know what to say. So it was weird. Yeah. So there was still shyness, but it was mainly around the girls at that point, I think. So,
Yeah. It's fascinating that you started selling records as the business model that you chose versus maybe what a lot of kids end up doing, selling candy or different things like that, selling pop or.
yeah. I think I remember doing car washing, but even the car washing,
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
I ran the business and my brother and my friend went out and did the car washing. So I did the organizing.
That's amazing.
Still look back on it, and which was good. But actually, I think so. I was always CEO,
Yeah.
but I do think the records was probably because I was trying to find cheap records. I found this place that would sell records for cheap,
Uh,
and then there was a bit which was like you can also sell these as for other people, and it just triggered this. Oh, that's good. That's a good way to make money. Oh,
right.
and actually going to school every day with a bag full of records to give around, it also makes you. I don't know,
So
don't
popular.
don't know now, but it made me probably. I met someone about 6 months ago. I went back to my hometown because my girls were doing a football trial. And it
Okay.
was interesting. It was the same ground that I used to play in, but 30 years later. And up walked one of my old school friends I hadn't seen for 35 years. And he was
Right.
there with his son. And he said to his son, "This is Greg. He used to sell records." And I bought, he said, Yellow, the race.
Okay.
So he remembered the record he bought. And it was quite good because my kids were there as well. And they've heard the story of me selling records. It was like, wow, I was really, people remember that in a sense. So the first thing he remembered was I sold him a record. Um, so yeah, and I think it did help with popularity because
Yeah.
you're doing something reasonably cool, so.
Yeah, exactly. That's a fascinating perspective that in our younger years, we're we don't always have the ability to pick up on some of the cues that are pertinent for us. We see ourselves as maybe an individual that's odd or different from most, and we think that everything that's happening around us is because of other people.
Mm.
And it's interesting to hear you say that um, you heard years later talking to these girls that you were actually the one and why
Mm.
they were interested in being around the group versus the others, uh,
Yeah,
as well as even the fact that you saw your friend that had purchased a record from you and he's like, you were the guy. Like
yeah.
I remember that. It was vivid in his mind that that took place.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's an interesting um, aspect of your story where that internal shy person had these external abilities to connect to people that weren't really something that you thought about as an asset at that point in time in terms of what you were doing. You
Mm.
saw it as a way to engage and to connect, right? But
Mm.
you were still that internal shy kid.
Yeah. There was something because I think as I said, there was a girl that I connected with who was different to the rest of us, and she gave me a Beatles tape. But I wasn't looking for a Beatles tape.
Uh-huh.
I was looking oh, she's interesting. I remember there was a guy we called him Robert the Weatherman. I used to sit outside the science class, didn't say anything to anyone, apart from one day I walked past and said, "Hello, Robert." No, who are you? And he said, "Oh, my name's Robert, and I'm going to tell you about the weather." And then he rifled off about it's 50 degrees here and blah, 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 blah. And then every
Oh,
day we'd go past and say, "All right, Robert, what's the weather?" And he'd go. So he was probably looking back on the spectrum now,
yeah,
genius scientist, but didn't really have any communication skills unless you
right.
got his weather report. And I still remember him now. And so do most of the school, Robert the Weatherman. But it was kind of took me to open the door to ask the question because I was interested. I think
Yes.
that's probably what I'm interested in. Doesn't matter. I'm probably interested more in the slightly different people than the people that
Yeah.
are just normal conforming people, if that makes
Right.
sense. I don't
Definitely.
know. I don't think I was specifically doing it for a reason. I just felt, oh, it'd be nice to talk to this person. And
Yeah, you had a sense of empathy
yeah, I think so. I
at
think
that
that's
point in time.
goes back to I thought, oh yeah, that one's not getting talked. I'll talk to them. So, but it did me a lot of good, and I've got that in life where a lot of people go around sort of trying to take from everyone. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes if you open your mouth and ask someone if they're okay, often you get some amazing stuff back.
Yeah.
You know, because you find this really interesting person who starts telling you their life story a bit, and then you're like, wow, it puts perspective on what else we're doing in a sense.
Right.
So
Right. You mentioned that you started writing music in high school. Were you looking at some of the other popular artists at that point in time in the UK
yeah,
and wanting to emulate them, or did you have a specific thing of your own that you wanted to try and convey?
I think it was. I remember just being in love with Top of the Pops
Okay, yeah,
and the chart show and
yeah,
watching Duran Duran
yeah.
and thinking, yeah, I want to have a band or be a singer and I would just write. I don't know. I didn't know how to do it, you know, in a sense, but I just
Okay,
started to write my own stuff. And
yeah,
often it would be, I'd look at the back of the Duran Duran album. In those days, they'd put the lyrics all on, and the reason I say Duran Duran had some very interesting lyrics. None of it necessarily made sense, but it was kind of, you know, they're talking about stuff which it was kind of, each line was quite poetic, but did it probably does make sense. But I remember just, I was able to pick a word and I pick a word and pick a word, and then I'd write my own line out of these interesting words that I'd found. So
okay,
in a way, I think it started with lyrics, first of all. And
gotcha.
then I don't know how, but I think we had a keyboard in the house and I started to learn Axel F
Okay,
because it was in the film back then, Beverly Hills Cop,
gotcha.
and and then Howard Jones. I used to love this. I don't know if it was one of the early synthesizers, so I started to learn his early bits, and then I'd go into music lessons, and music lessons were really boring. But they'd have a few keyboards, and I'd sit there playing these riffs, and again, people would be like, "Oh, Greg can play the keyboards." So this was all sort of like, yeah. So I would start to put some of the keyboard riffs and some of the words and some of it together,
Yeah,
try and make my own song, and I'm sure it was pretty rubbish, you know, at the time because I started early. I guess it gives you time to develop.
yes,
And then I started to meet people who are in bands, and then it was like, okay, maybe we have a band. And but what happened at that point is they all wanted to do cover versions. Everyone's learning their instruments, wanting to play Dark Side of the Moon or well, you know, a cover. And to me, that wasn't interesting. I wanted to create stuff. I wanted to create stuff that I was already hearing, and I wanted that feeling of people liking what I'd created.
right.
So those bands soon disbanded and didn't work, and I ended up writing songs with my brother, mainly me writing. He was amazing bass player,
Cool.
and then we got a recording studio. I mean, first of all, I was at school, and the music teacher changed, and I stopped music, in fact, because I didn't go in. I wasn't allowed to take lots of creative subjects. So into my last years, I took business studies was the most creative study one I took, but I wanted to do drama and music, but they wouldn't let me.
Okay,
Music teacher changed, and then we had this Christmas show, and it was trying to remember which way around it. Once you were the last year, basically you were in your group, your year group was in charge of making a show for the rest of the school.
okay,
And I just remember thinking, I wondered, I'd heard there was a recording studio with a new music teacher, and I went and asked him, said, would you mind if I came in and we made a song for the music show, Christmas show? And he was like, "What? Well, yeah, okay." So you could tell it was like he'd got someone who wanted to come and use the equipment properly.
right.
We did make a cover version of Strawberry Fields because whilst I'd heard the Beatles, there was a cover version in the charts at that point, and I thought, let's make it that. So we started to make that in the studio. The idea is my friend Jason was going to come and sing.
Okay,
Again, he wasn't a singer, but it was like in my head, but he's more of a front person than me. I'll be.
right, right.
We recorded it. He came to sing, pressed the button. Where's he gone? It's like, where's Jason? Where's, and as I say, I call him Mr. Gift of the Gab. He's been quiet. And he comes out, I can't do it. So I went in the booth and sang, and it's like, oh, I can sing all right. I can. This works. So I ended up singing it, and then we went on stage and did the performance. And one big learning curve is check. Always check your speakers and this and that and the other.
Right.
We were miming, and he was going to be the singer, and I was still the back. So even though it was my voice, but we couldn't hear. They had so the speakers were in front of us, and we were
Uh,
here. So all
yeah.
you could hear was we didn't know which point of the song we were at to mime to. So we felt it was really bad, but everyone apparently it sounded good. We just weren't in the right time all the time. And then I made three or four other things for this show, comedy bit. We did another dance thing and blah, blah. And suddenly this was unleashed. Oh, I've
Yeah.
recorded something. This
Yeah.
was really close. So I think 3 months later, me and my brother hired some recording equipment for over Christmas sort of thing.
Okay.
Recorded 4 or 5 songs, and then it's like I've got the bug. I really want to do this. And then we saved up to buy some. So we were automatically writing songs and recording them. That was 16, 17, 16, 17.
16. Wow. Okay.
So now, and I was learning how to produce, basically, learning how
Yeah.
the soft wasn't software in those days, it was hardware. To copy the tape you play on
Yeah.
track one, put the drums on, and then put the bass on track two, and then combine bass and drums one and two onto track three. So you can use track one and two for some vocals, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I had 8 tracks, but you ended up with 25 tracks playing at the same time and mixing it and things like that. So I
Right.
was teaching myself how to do it, which was, looking back now, I think that actually I'm not that technical, and I somehow managed to do that. But
Yeah. That's amazing.
being
Like
able
that.
to record was that was the it was I was never a good musician. I could play a little bit, but didn't have the discipline to learn. But because I was automatically, I'd learn Axel F, and then suddenly go, let's play something. Let me write my own thing. So
Yeah.
being able to record, you could record a part, play a bit, play it back, play a bit more. So it was that kind of was real, and then you could sing over the top. So you could write that way. So
Yeah, that's fantastic. Did did you see that when you say you caught the bug? Did you see that as the thing that you wanted to pursue as potentially a career as you're moving later on into high school in the final year
yeah,
you're
yeah. I
producing?
mean, I had a meeting with my careers advisor.
Okay.
I think you have it year before the last one, or towards
Yeah.
the end of last year at school, and they asked, "What do I want to do?" And my reply was, "Run my own business and be a singer songwriter, artist songwriter." To
Yeah.
which they said, "Don't be stupid. What do you want to do?" I said, "Artist, singer, songwriter, run my business." Again, what you really want to do, which is what you get as a musician. Often it's what's your real job.
Yeah.
And I said to them, well, I'm already selling records in the playground, so I'm running my own business, and I'm already writing songs. So why are you saying no? And they
Yeah.
basically just said, "I'll go away." That's pretty much because they didn't know what to do with me. And I
Wow.
think that's where I was different. If quite a few other people might have gone, oh, okay, I should listen to the teacher. Whereas I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And quite interestingly, I still see a big group of school friends. I'm the only one who knew what I wanted to do and the only one who's doing it.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Wow.
them have been successful and done, one of them has just retired recently, made a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. But he still sort of says, well, you have really good fun. You're doing what you want to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was early, very early.
Yeah. It amazes me, even just the interviews that I've done so far, is the fact that so many times uh, instructors, teachers, individuals that you would think that you're going to get encouragement and advice that's going to be sound, um, especially from the creative perspective. They look at you and they say, "That's not going to be viable for you. Like
Mm,
that's not a real job. That's not a real thing.
yeah.
It's not something that you get a paycheck every week for. All that kind of stuff." And it stifles a lot um, right off the bat. Although there's all those others though that take that and they're like, okay, I'm going to show you that what you're telling me is not going to work, is
Mm,
going to work. And I'm going to do this because it's in me. It's what
yeah.
I feel I need to be doing.
Mm. I mentor a lot of songwriters now, and a lot of them have been successful in their careers and have come back and said, but exactly what you said,
Yeah.
it never left me. It's in me. I am a songwriter, but I've been told I'm not.
Right.
And I'm always like, well, this is one of the reasons I wrote the book, Keeping the Dream Alive, because it's about dreams, is why did you suddenly stop following your dreams? You know, you just got to believe it and go
Yeah.
for it. That's the difference. I mean, yes, and now I look back at some of the dreams I had when I was younger and think, how on earth did I keep going? Because it felt like such a small seed was actually showing.
Uh,
But actually, I had that in me that now, yes, lots of good things are happening, but it was tiny bits which kept me going. But I also really feel that with everyone when they're coming in, they might be in their 30s or 40s or 50s now. And I'm sort of saying, follow the dream because you only live once. I think, and I have to say, I had this slight conversation with someone earlier about why did I make a lot of my life? When I was 14, a friend died who was
oh,
15.
yeah.
He wasn't my best friend. He was at he was in the youth group. He just died suddenly, was run over by a bus.
Mm.
And I think that made me go, I can't not. I need to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not here now.
Right.
I've got to think, because I think as you don't think life's short at that age. I
Right.
had this sort of sudden thing, life's short, enjoy it, make sure you do it, follow your dreams. That's kind of and actually my grandfather was nothing to do with that, but he used to tell me to follow, reach for the moon, you might catch a star on the way down. So I was getting all these people telling me about dreams and following dreams, other people saying that, but the ones that mattered, it was like, keep going, keep going. And I think that was a fundamental part of it as well. I look back and think that horrible event
Yeah.
made me take it seriously.
Wow. That's also a unique take on um, moving forward.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times when individuals experience that type of tragedy at that young of an age, it almost is like a marker that is a stopping point for them in a particular aspect of their life.
Hmm.
It almost has the opposite effect on them versus what it had on you, where you were like, oh wait, life can be really short and can end at any point in time. And I've got to try and live as
Hmm.
much of it as I can. That's very fascinating for me to
Yeah.
see that mind shift
Yeah.
take
And again,
place.
I don't think I knew it at the time, but looking back, you kind of got
Yeah,
these little events that kind of push you to, oh, okay, that's why I've stuck at it. That's why I went for it.
yeah,
Um, and it is mindset. I do a lot of motivation and mindset teaching and people coming in and saying, but I can't, you can't, but you're already doing, you know,
right.
someone comes in and they're an international lawyer and they're telling me they can't, but I can't do this song. You can, you've just shown me that you can do it, but
Yeah,
you've got the imposter syndrome stuff under
yes,
in your ear saying you can't do this, you can't do this, because people have told you can't do it, but that doesn't mean they were right. That
exactly.
just means I mean, I believe you got dreamers and you got people who can't dream. And there's quite a few, but not everyone, but there's a few people in life who I think teachers are very influential. Teachers, if you've got a good teacher who develops you, and if you remember your lessons that you liked, it's usually because you had a good teacher who was interested in you.
Yep,
But then you've got the opposite. There's the ones that just put you down, who just say, no, you can't do that. No, you. I was listening to this survey the other day, and they said, asked a group of teachers, who's your worst 10 people in the class or in your year? And they'd
yeah.
named them. And then they said, okay, each day for the next 2 weeks, talk to that kid for a minute about something that's not school or learning.
Mm,
And then at the end of the 2 weeks, they asked the same teachers, who's your favorite kids? And they said, interestingly, it's now the people, and they asked the kids, do you like the teacher? Yes, because they're interested in me.
that's fascinating. Fascinating. I think that's such a great example, too, though, of the power of connection.
Yeah,
When you're willing to take the time to actually connect with a student or an individual, and it changes things
mm,
drastically, and it
yeah,
can completely turn it around to be the most positive thing that you could ever experience.
yeah. I this is how I mentor people a lot, and
Yeah.
often I'll be chatting with them, helping them, and you think, oh, that thing I just said was really kind of prominent for me right now as well. And you're trying not to say it too loud in the actual thing because it might be they're paying you to, but actually, I really believe have a mentor and mentor someone yourself
Yeah.
because it goes down the line. And again, we don't ever stop learning. I mean, I have a lot of young songwriters around me now, and they often think, I am mentoring them, I am helping them, but actually, I really need them for the young vision, the young ideas, the young sound. So,
Yes.
and they need us for the old, the melodies, because the melodies are not so prominent now.
Yep.
Um, but also, so it's each generation needs. So I run songwriting camps. I go on a few songwriting camps. You go and you think, oh, they're all in their 20s.
Yeah.
This is missing something,
Right.
and it's an older person or two or three older people. So
Yeah.
if you've got it that there's some older people with some experience and some young people as well, then it works so much better because you've got a bit of same. We're going back to strengths.
Yeah.
You've got young energy and you've got older wisdom.
Yep. Exactly.
You're not, I wasn't wise at the age of 14. I may
Right.
have known a few, but I didn't I've only got my wisdom through 51 years.
Exactly.
I look back now, my grandfather, he was a mentor. He didn't sit down and say, I'm mentoring you. He just gave me stuff. He talked to me, he sent me letters, he blah, blah, blah. And now I
Yeah.
look back and think he was mentoring me. He was giving me the gifts of his wisdom. And it's been really powerful, so in a way, that's kind of why I'm trying to do what I do now is giving it back. Actually, I get so much back from it as well. So I can't say it's a bad thing, but giving out, talking to people, listening to people is really important, I think. So and connect. You said connection. For me, I love music. I love songs. It's about connecting with the songs. Like I had that moment with Do a Diddy. It's about connecting with people. It's about traveling. It's about life and that sort of thing. I'm doing it all the time. That
Right.
I'd much be rather doing that than working in the bank like I used to, which is nothing wrong with working in a bank. And I used to earn money from working in the bank, but actually I wasn't inspired.
Okay. Okay. So as you guys are starting to record, starting to write, and now you're out of high school,
Mhm.
are you thinking about going to university, or are you thinking we're going to try and make this as the career, or do you step into the bank?
So I was at college, went to college for a couple of years, which is the sort of interim between school and university, because we didn't.
Okay.
Sometimes you have a 2-year sixth form, but I went out
Gotcha.
to what's called a technical college,
All right.
and I studied business studies and media and film.
Oh, wow.
You couldn't really do pop music in those days. You can now, but in those
Gotcha.
days you could. So I did media, and I was doing the band thing whilst I was there, and thinking about its career when the university came up. There was two reasons. I thought I don't need to go to university to do music because most courses are academic, theoretical, classical.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm doing. There was also a girl around at the time, so I didn't want to go to university. So that's often a so
Yeah.
I stayed and I carried on writing music. And then I started to, um, then I found my first wife, different girl actually to the first one. But then I started to settle down. And then
Okay.
then it was like, we need to go to the bank. I was only part-time at the beginning for the first few years because she believed what I was doing. I was doing songwriting and bank and songwriting bank. And, so, but a lot of the songwriting wasn't really about playing live in a band. It was more about the songs we were writing. And then we would think of, is there an act we can put together to sell the songs? Um,
Okay.
so we did that. And eventually I got offered a record deal for one of the acts. And they kept bringing me to the front. They trained us to sing. And it was, I'd written a songs with a manager type guy, and it was me doing sort of like a little bit of English rap, I guess,
Okay.
a little bit of singing, but not with a girl doing most of the vocals. So they then trained us to sing, gave us some lessons with this very well-known singing teacher.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of it, I didn't realize it was a test. They'd asked her, what do they think of Greg? What do they think of Angie? And she basically said, Greg's really learnt, Greg's really good, Angie's gone backwards. You need Greg in the front. And
Wow.
I was like, but that's because I was disciplined. I could learn. I really wanted it.
Okay.
Not that Angie didn't want it, but maybe she wasn't, she kind of she had a voice, but she hadn't quite got the right voice. Um, but then it was like, okay, so they want me to sing. We've got these 20 odd songs which have got a girl female. It doesn't really work. It was a Japanese label, interestingly, or a Japanese dentist who actually had a lot of money and lived and wanted to have a label in the UK.
Okay.
Very odd, but and
Yeah.
had a lot of money. She went to her house and it was like, this is not a house, this is an estate.
Right.
um, but at my first meeting with, no, not my first meeting where they'd said, we're going to sign you, but we're going to get rid of the girl. I came into the meeting and they said, tell me about kind of like, what's your dream? And I said, I want to be a songwriter and a singer. And Dr. Uchi said, you said singer. Sorry, you said songwriter first.
Yeah.
I was like, did I? Oh, I didn't. That's automatic. And she was like, no, you said you don't want to be a singer. You want to be a songwriter. I was like, no, no, no. I want to be and then I was like, well, George Michael, he's a
Right.
singer. He's a singer, songwriter, singer.
Yeah.
I fought and thought, and I felt really, this went on for ages of telling her I really want it and blah, blah, blah. And at the end, she said, okay, we'd like to sign you. I was like, okay. So I fought for it. But
Yeah.
then I went home and I was like, I want to be a songwriter. And I think for
Right.
the first week, that was going around in my head. I was also getting engaged to my first wife at that point. And it's
Hmm.
like, I don't want to be an artist who goes around to Japan and sings songs that are obviously written for I want to be the songwriter. So I went back and said, okay, I'd love to do this, but we need a new singer. And they were like, okay, we'll get a new singer, a new female singer. We auditioned. But from that moment on, it was like, I've learned in the business, you have momentum, it's really going, and then something hits it and it stops. So it slowly ran out of steam.
And was that because you made the decision that you wanted somebody else to sing and they didn't see the possible potential in that other person versus what they saw in you?
They agreed to get a new singer. We held auditions and no one was good enough.
Okay.
And legitimately, it wasn't that, it was like, oh, we can't find anyone to fit.
Right.
And I think we could have tried again, but it was also like the momentum's, it felt like, I don't know. Then they changed A&R people. It just was like, this isn't going to happen.
Right.
So I think uh, that band ended up, I went, basically at that point, I went on my own, decided, okay, strangely put together, I'd won a competition in the band to go and record at a big studio nearby with a famous guy who owned it. And it's like, well, we haven't got the band anymore. Maybe I'll go and record some solo songs. So I did a
Yeah.
solo couple of songs and pitched that out places. But still, I was like, I don't really want to, I don't know why I've just done that as a singer because I don't really want to be. Now looking back, I was trying to find, I didn't really know but now I know I'm a songwriter.
Yeah.
I'm not a front person. I'm not an artist. I can sing.
Right.
Difference.
Yep.
That, there's a front person who wants to be on stage all the time. All I was going, I wanted to be behind the scenes writing.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
different, two different things going on. And I think this was the process of me finding out, okay, I'm a songwriter. That's what my real thing is, not the artist thing.
Right. And was the bank scenario something that you were looking at because you were engaged, you're going to be getting married? I need to have some kind of stable job
Yeah,
in
I
place.
yeah. I was applied so I applied for a couple of jobs after after college
Yeah.
and I can't remember I got the first one, which was being a chambermaid.
Okay. Okay.
We lived near Gatwick, so not a maid. I don't know what a male equivalent of that is, but so I would have been changing beds and cleaning hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Thank goodness the second interview I went to was at the bank and they also gave me the job and I was able to ring up and say, so I never started the chambermaid position
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
don't think it was, I think my wife will tell you now I'm not the best bed maker. Uh, so, so I ended up going to getting an interview at the bank. Funny story was, I'd failed maths at school. I was really good at maths and somehow failed it. Lots
Yeah.
of stories behind it. And at the bank, they were like, "Oh, how come you got a D in maths? You need maths for a bank." And I said, "Give me a test, and I'll show you I can do maths." I got 97 out of 98 because it was adding. It was simple maths, the adding, the
Yeah.
subtracting, the business maths. What I couldn't do was how many squares are there in a chess? The investigation type stuff, which is like, well, I can give you the answer, but I can't be bothered to tell you how I got there.
Right.
So so I went into the bank part time, trying to earn some money. Because yeah, stabilizing life with partner in a
Yeah.
sense, um, and that I stayed there for a bit, and slowly it got like the bank took over the songwriting. So there was one point, and this is the 2003 moment where
Okay.
I was going up to London. Took me 2.5 hours to get there because it was just through London, the other side. I'd write a
Yeah.
song for 2 or 3 hours with a co-writer. I'd come home 2 or 3 hours. 2 weeks later, I'd go back again, and I get there. Of course, he's changed half the song because I've not been there, and it was just so demoralising. It was like, is this even worth doing it anymore? I really aren't. I'm not doing it, and I'm at the bank. Maybe I should just take the bank seriously. So I didn't stop completely, but I really did start to take the bank seriously. And I think actually the lesson in that now is I needed to become successful at the bank to
Yeah.
learn how to be successful in the music in some ways. So last few years I was really pushing for promotion and eventually became a mortgage advisor, eventually got sort of was one of the best salesmen in the south of England. And then I got the chance to leave. So, initially they asked us all to apply for our jobs again. And I just got this job and they said, can you apply? And me and my wife thought, okay, I'm going to get made redundant. This is good. I'll get a lump sum of money. And because I
Yeah.
was kind of last in, so I was like, well, I'll be first out then, surely. And in the form, they sort of said, all the mortgage advisors, there was 8 branches. You have to put down which 3 branches you're prepared to go to.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not prepared to go anywhere. I'm going to my home branch, Red Hill, Red Hill, Red Hill. So I wrote Red Hill 3 times on the form rebelliously.
Right.
Went in for my interview and they said, "What, you've got Red Hill and stuff." And I was like, what? And I accepted the job because I thought, okay, well, maybe that's meant to be because we'd kind of said, and I went home and for a couple of years, I'd really felt at some point my wife needs to tell me to go and do it, go and do music.
Yeah.
So I was waiting for her because I thought it has to come from her. I can't just sort of dominate the relationship and say I'm going off. And um, she knew about the dream. And about a week into me accepting the job, she came back to me and said, I think you need to go. I think you need to hand your notice in and we'll have a year's work in music and just see if you can, at the end of the year, if you can't do it, we go back to the bank. And I was like, what? Okay. Run to
Right.
work the next day with my resignation letter. And they were
Yeah.
like, what? We've just trained you. You've just got this high job. We're going to give you a bonus. And it's like, you're not going to give me a bonus. If I hit this target, that target, and that target, I'll get a bonus. But you always get this, there's something that doesn't quite happen to get the bonus at the end of it.
Right. Yeah.
So, but in that last night, because I gave them 9 weeks notice because I'd worked for them for 9 years, I did. I don't think I had to because I think officially I had 4 or 5 years, but I thought I'll be honourable and so give them nice notice. And
Yeah.
during that 9 weeks, I absolutely sold I was the best salesman definitely in the south of England during that time
Wow.
because it was like I'm free, I'm selling it, and they were like,
Yeah.
how? And it's like basically because the customers like me, they've listened to me for years, and they trust me, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is how we should work. Trust is important. Listen to people. So then I got to leave at the end of the 9 weeks, gave myself a year, really worked at it, and at the end of about 11th month, I was. I had a chat with my wife and we were like, feels like I'm really close. Should I go back? And she sort of said, let's do 3 more months. And on the 12th month, I got offered a job to set up a music publishing department for a song. company I was working for. So
Mm.
they said you could set the publishing up, but at the same time you can be the songwriter.
Oh, wow.
So I was
Okay.
like, so they were paying me to learn how to set up a publishing company at the same time as being a signed songwriter. And then I was
Nice.
sent off to play. And it was just like, that's a dream, isn't it? What was so, and it was perfect timing. And I actually then never been back to the bank. So
Wow. That's a fascinating pivot.
yeah.
Fascinating pivot. But also too, I see that part of you that was the, 14, 15, 16-year-old entrepreneur who's selling records, at school to, buy his own records, but also to have a little bit of extra money. So you have this entrepreneurial sense that's taking place early on. And then you go into the
Mm,
bank and you're successful with that uh, job in the position. And then you you get the permission to be able to exit that from your wife.
mm,
And then you just go on a spree of
yeah.
selling and making more money for the bank. Um, it's very, very fascinating. And also, it says a lot about your integrity, Greg, um, because you weren't doing it necessarily for your own glory and accolades. You were doing it from a place of they like me, they know who I am, they know I'm not BSing them. Um,
Mm,
and you're also doing it integrally for the bank that you just told them I'm leaving, right? So
mm,
you're kind of layering these levels of integrity in place to make an exit, which is completely not normal in today's world. And
yeah, I don't think I am normal. I've learned.
but
Although I do think yeah, go on.
that's just the business part of those industries. They're not they're not always in the best interest of the client versus the best interest of the institution.
Yeah, I think that's where where probably, so during my time as the best salesman at the bank, I tried to convince, because they were just pushing you in, you go to this branch, you go here. And I was like, this is nonsense. Put me in the branch where I grew up, where that they
Yeah,
all know me and they knew me as the early cashier because they
yeah,
trust me.
right.
So, and eventually they put me there. And oh, guess what? All the customers come in and they have one meeting, and the bank people are saying, well, why didn't you sell anything? So just trust me, you know, and they'll come in for another meeting. I didn't sell anything. Oh, you didn't sell anything. Okay. Just trust me. Third meeting, they come in and say, Greg, what shall I do? And I didn't sell them things. I listened to what they needed and I gave them the options to take certain products. And then
Yeah,
they took those products because they trusted me. I didn't bash them on the head to buy. So actually the difference was I was working for the customers.
yeah,
Even though the bank was telling me sell, 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 I was like, I'm not selling, I'm listening. And eventually, meeting three, I'd come out, sold everything, and the boss is going, how did you do that? I listened to the customer.
right.
So that's what was also annoying about the bank. They were just very much sell, sell, sell. They go through these periods. And you're like, no, you have to listen. It's not, selling is not trying to sell something that they don't want.
Yeah,
We've all had that before. You buy something and they think, well, I don't really want it. Why? Because someone's convinced me. Actually, you sell them what they do want. And actually, you don't sell them what you do want. You're serving them with all the
right.
options. So then
Exactly.
they come away thinking, I've got all the options. So it's a difference. I was working personally for the customers and the bank benefited from that.
Yeah,
So,
very
and
much so.
again, I don't think I was thinking, let's make the bank lots of money. I think, okay, I was free to do the job really well. Because especially when I was
Yeah,
leaving, I was like, well, it doesn't matter. I could just talk to the customers I like. If they tell me to do so, I'd just say, no, I'm going. Bye. It's
exactly.
gonna, and I
Oh,
proved them, wrong in a way because I did so well at it that point. But it was just because I was free to just be myself, which is kind of what we've been saying a bit as we go. When yourself comes out, you perform better.
yeah, for sure. For sure. So the opportunity for you to be able to uh, write songs, but also have the opportunity to be your own publisher. Again, that's another scenario that's not always um, common, especially at that point in time in your career. That's not a common thing. Absolutely not a common thing here in the US. But in the UK, I would imagine that's still not a common thing where
I don't think so. No.
you
Yeah.
get to write your songs, but you're also your own publishing company as
Mm.
well. Um, so again, from a business standpoint for up and coming artists and musicians, there's an opportunity to lock in some income from that perspective
Yeah.
because we know that songwriters usually make a good amount of money off of a song, whether somebody else sings it or they're the
Yeah.
one that's singing it.
Yeah.
If you're the writer of the song, that's the base level of your
Yeah.
potential success.
Yeah. And this was 20 years ago, so it was higher than now, now.
Yeah,
But then it was a lot, there was, if you could sell songs, it was reasonably lucrative. Yeah.
for sure. Um, as you're in this new position, are you starting to see even more so that you just want to focus on writing and publishing and licensing them out to artists to sing for you? Or are
Yeah.
you thinking
Yeah. I wasn't
we're just
even, I was way away from art. I might every now and then sing on something to try and sell it, but I could also see, so I was working with this guy here, Pete, and another guy called Paul.
yeah,
And Paul could sing much better than I could. So if there's a male song, he was on it. If there's a female song, we'd pay a session fee or something. So yeah, it was very much writing songs for others at this point.
okay. And you said too that you saw K-pop and J-pop as your avenue long before anybody else did. Is that where you guys immediately started focusing, or did you focus within
No,
your
no,
community?
we focused on everywhere in the world where we could.
Okay,
But I found this conference in France called Midem, which is like it's in Cannes, it's like the Cannes Film Festival, but
okay,
It's like a
yeah,
music festival. And I thought, well, if I go there, I might find some business contacts. So I remember going there, 36 meetings in 3 days, and at least half the meetings were sorry, with people that didn't need to meet. So I learned that as well.
yeah,
But there were some good ones. And I came away, and actually, most of the best contact was a Belgian company.
okay,
So our first success came in Belgium, and then they kind of believed in us more than anyone else. And they offered us a publishing deal for Benelux, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Netherlands. So all of a sudden, our studio's in a place called Elstead, which is 45 minutes from Waterloo. London Waterloo.
okay,
And in those days, the Eurostar went from Brussels to Waterloo. So we had more people from Brussels and Belgium coming over to our studio than we did in the UK. Pretty much nearly every artist in Belgium came to the studio. So we had probably 3 years of top 10 hits in Belgium all the time. And
nice,
we'd also worked with a boy band from Ireland. And both the boy band from Ireland and one of the Belgian acts, had coincidentally released a same song, or same song with different words in Japan. We met second year at Midem. I met a Japanese publisher. I was meeting them so we could collect the royalties because I'd worked out that it's better to have royalties from Japan directly than it is via the collection societies.
yeah,
Person asked me, "Do you have any other songs?" I was like, "Yeah, we're writing songs like aiming at the Backstreet Boys, aiming at this." I mean, floodgates. We give them songs, and then suddenly it's like, oh, there's this massive market in Japan for boy bands, and we didn't know anything about it. So
yeah,
it was a happy accident. And then a couple of years later, another Japanese partner sort of asked to meet us, and I remember sitting around the table with a Danish publisher, a Swedish publisher, Finnish publisher, and us, and that was the core of taking Western music into Japan, hybriding it. It was those four companies. Um,
wow,
and we were lucky. we were on the beginning of that curve. And I remember going to Japan and this guy taking us around meetings, and he was like saying it's all the old school A&R. They don't really, there was one person that was interested, and I went back 2 years later, everyone was interested. So just
Yeah.
we were on, when the door opens and it's the right time, we were at that right time. So we were able to get lots of releases and cuts at that point. And K-pop came out of that because a lot of the K-pop acts release in Japan. So we released K-pop, and then that grew into something else. We started to go into Korea as well. So,
Wow. Wow. It's interesting that, again, from your storyline, right? The young entrepreneur seeing the opportunity to make some money to supply your own interests. And then also, you've got this, as you called it, a happy success, um, where you break into a market that just starts exploding for you. I see that as a direct uh, line of connection from your early on childhood
okay.
that's playing out years later. And that's fascinating for me as uh, a host and talking to you about your story and also being able to share it with the audience because I think these are highlight things that the creative community needs to see, whether they're in music or they're in graphic design, working with a musician to create their cover art, any of those types of things. Um, to be able to have vision of what is not necessarily already there, but what could be there, trying to think like that and use your own
Hmm.
distinct identity to visualize that
Yeah.
and it becomes reality.
Yeah.
That's very fascinating for me.
I think in some ways, I say happy accident. We just followed. It was like follow your nose, keep going.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen, keep going. I do know later we've planned, I've planned Eurovision. I
Hmm.
looked at our books with Japan and it was like our accounts, 98% of our money is coming from Japan. And it's like suddenly had this, but what if that stops?
Right.
So we were like, well, where else is no one interested in the UK? Because we were there was people and Japan was becoming more saturated. People wanted, but we were the top UK publisher there, so that was great. So who in the UK? So what is no one interested in the UK interested in that a lot of everyone else is? And we stumbled upon Eurovision again. I'd watched it as a kid, and then suddenly I'd been in some shows where we accidentally got to the final through
Okay.
Belgium, and it's like, and then we were like, no UK, people in the UK were laughing at it. It's a silly
Yeah.
show. It's cheesy. It's blah blah blah.
Right.
So it was like, okay, well, that's interesting. But when I went on this camp and watched, so I had a Japanese camp in Belgium, interestingly, and the last night of the camp, Eurovision was on the telly. So there I was with Swedes, Danes, Japanese, Koreans, all fascinated by this competition. The only ones that weren't were the UK producers who all went back to their rooms and finished their songs.
Yeah.
And it told me, this is where we got to go. And Pete, I was talking to him. He said, "Should we do a Eurovision camp?" Because we were both watching it on. He was at home. I was like, "Let's do it. Let's move the formula to Eurovision as well. We carry on doing Japan. But if we do that, then the market is totally open for a UK company because
Right.
no one's there. And what's happened? 18 entries in 11 years, and actually, in the last few years, people in the UK have become more interested. It's becoming more
Really
saturated, like
nice.
everyone's interested in K-pop now. But when you're first there, you do get some notoriety for that, and you also get the connections still. If you keep hold of the connections, then they keep coming back. So we have really highlighted that in different places, Eurovision, some other places now. Maybe I shouldn't say where because otherwise everyone else will end up there. Um,
Right.
there's a few places we're at. Well, we're doing some stuff in Luxembourg, we're doing some stuff in Barbados, but there's both of them is like, well, no one else is. Again, it's not business because no one else is there. It's more like, well, people want us. If people want you, you go to,
Yeah.
if people are trying to buy from you from a place, you sell.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to sell in a place where everyone else is,
Yep.
I've got much more chance of selling my goods here. So why don't we go to those places?
Well, exactly. Kid Rock has a, a thing that he says, and I've known him since the time I've known him since '96. So that was the time when he had already been dropped from two labels, and he was in the process of just trying to make it on his own before he got signed to Atlantic and Lava. One of the things that he says is go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated.
Yeah.
And that's always stuck with me because I know here in the States, there's this mentality of we're not going to do well outside of the US. And if we can't make it here, we're not going to make it anywhere else.
Hmm.
But it's very interesting to watch artists who go on a journey of success in the US and then they go outside of the US. And it's almost like there's an explosion that takes place for them outside of the US. And
Hmm.
it may not be the same as it is here and what they're experiencing here, but once the world sees them, it's a whole different ball game
Hmm.
at that
Yeah.
time.
I mean, I believe, and my experience has been that in the UK, I'm a bit boring.
Yeah,
I'm not,
right.
I'm not, there's lots of people in England who can write English lyrics and songs.
Yeah,
But the moment I go to Japan or to Norway or to Sweden, I
yeah,
come from the land of the Beatles.
right.
So, and actually, they need my lyrics because I'm
Yeah,
English. So, even in Sweden, who could do everything, I remember going to it and them like, oh, we so like having an English speaker because that means even though we know we can write them, we can get them better.
yeah,
So it's like you are more interesting somewhere else that's not at home. I
right.
think. I think I was just thinking of this book I read. It's called "I'm Coming to Take You to Lunch." I think it was called by a guy called Simon Napier Bell, who was Wham's manager.
Okay.
And the book is about he's going to China every month and he's taking the Chinese to lunch.
Yeah,
And after 2 years, he convinces them to have Wham perform in China along the Great Wall of China. And this is back in 1984.
yeah, yeah,
So Wham were quite big. And in England, they'd had some success and they were starting to have some success in America. But
yeah,
then they went to China. And because they performed in China, it looks like they're the biggest band in the world.
yeah,
So the perception is, wow, how big. And suddenly they're massive in the UK. They're massive in America.
yeah,
So it was career change. And this one thing of slightly, if you think about social media, some people use looking good on social media is better, they can make it look better than they are.
right.
Remember this guy, I was watching this coach and he was sort of, he went around someone else's house and he had a Porsche. So he didn't say he owned the Porsche. He just stood there and took a picture of it. And on social media, everyone's thinking, oh, he's doing well. Okay, I'll get him as my coach. It's
Yeah,
perception. So
exactly.
if you can, there's a lot of that where people see success and they go, oh, okay. But actually, I think also if you're going outside and being successful, it can be make better at home as well because people are going, oh, the UK like this group. Okay, back in the US, we like them a bit more too.
Right. Yeah, it's that boomerang effect.
Hmm.
As it
And
goes out, it
yeah,
comes back.
yeah. And it just looks good, and it might not be. So there's lots of, and I guess we've not given up in the UK. We still do stuff in the UK, but there's an element of again. I remember particularly about 5, 6 years ago being really frustrated, thinking, oh, every time I send something to the UK, we don't get any response. And then sort of someone saying, but you're really successful. So okay. And then it was like, oh yeah, but in the other places, that's fine.
Right.
As a 14-year-old boy, I wanted to be number one in the world.
Yeah,
Actually, I've achieved that by being number one in Japan, which is in a week sells more than the Billboard number one.
that's wild.
Doesn't the next week because it
Right.
drops back out again. Or Eurovision stage is 250 million people. So these songs that have gone out, in a way, I wanted my songs to be in an international audience. I was growing up with MTV and Live Aid. Those days are different now. It has become a bit more segmented again, I think, in lots of
Yes.
ways. But actually, one of the ways through is Eurovision because people see it. Maybe it's not worldwide. I know America doesn't know it as much, but I certainly get American songwriters wanting to be involved now
Okay.
because and actually when you're behind the scenes, you realise. I took a good friend of mine, a published called Ian Curnow. He's written hits for again number ones in America with Rick Astley and Kylie and big acts from the 80s.
Yeah.
And he turned to me after at the first Eurovision together and said, "This is the biggest thing I've ever done." And I sort of looked at him and thought, "But you've been number one in America. How can this be the biggest thing you've?" And he said, "As a show, this is like the World Cup.
Yeah.
This is like the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Why would you, as a songwriter, and this is where it's strange for why would you not want your song on this?
Yeah.
And it is you're there and you're just like part of this big machine, and everyone who gets in wants to get in again. It's like this bug. You get this, I must keep going. There's also a friendly competition that's going on, and you're in competition with your other people that you know, and even if you go out, you're sort of supporting them. So there's something very special about it. So,
Right. Right. For the American audience, and also to forgive me because I
yeah,
didn't dive into what it actually is a little bit more. Can you
yeah.
explain what Eurovision is and how it's set up?
Yes. So there was actually one year, there was a program called America Vision. I don't think it worked.
Okay.
But
No, I'm sure it did.
Eurovision was set up in like the 1950s. And
Okay.
the idea was it would unite Europe after World War II, with a song competition.
Got you.
And Switzerland started it, they hosted it, and the first year they won it. So,
Okay.
but it was about 18 countries then would get together and they'd all pick their own singer and song, and then they'd have votes at the end. And it's got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's 70 years later, it's still going.
Wow.
There's now 40 odd countries enter. Um, and they have two semi-finals because you have to get semi-finals to get through to the final. So it's like a 10-day period where they're all there rehearsing. They're trying to get through the semi-finals, and each country might have a national final. They'll either
Okay.
pick by there's internal selection, they just pick it somehow, or they have a national final, and if they win that, they go to Eurovision, the semi-finals, and if they get through the semi-finals, they go to the final, which is a Saturday night show. In England, 12 million people watch it, which is second biggest show compared to the dance. There's a dancing show, but it's the second biggest show of the year. 250 million people are watching it around the world across, it's a family show. You sit down and watch it as a family. They play
Yeah.
the songs. They have you've got to keep people interested. You don't want to be the song that someone goes out and makes a cup of tea on.
Right.
Then they have a very big interval. And whilst they're having an interview, the public's voting.
Okay.
And there's also juries. And the big famous thing about Eurovision is often the voting. They deliver the votes back. So you go to Vienna, and there's someone saying, and these is the votes of the Vienna jury, and they do two up to 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 12.
Okay.
So, and these points come in individually, and then they get the public vote at the end, and then you get a winner. And it's quite the voting in some ways is for me is sometimes the best bit because it's in the court, but because the song competition is quite long.
Yeah.
But it's just a massive event to be involved in. If you win, of course, it's great. You get loads of TV airplay. You get lots, but actually, there's been big hits come out of it that haven't won.
Okay.
You could now release, someone from Poland is releasing their record, and of course, they've been on Eurovision, so it might means that they might not go the whole of Europe, but
Right.
Germany and Netherlands is suddenly playing a song from Poland.
Yeah.
An artist can go and gig and tour there. So it's a good thing for as an artist, your career to expand into different territories.
Right. So,
And American acts, Justin Timberlake, 2016, Madonna,
okay.
2019, both performed at the interval because they know 250
Right.
million people are watching. So it was
Yeah.
this song was it? What's the feeling? I can't remember what that song was called, but Justin Timberlake, he was number one the next morning, basically,
Oh, wow.
with
Okay.
one performance.
Wow. That's wild. So structure-wise, would it be similar to The Voice or American Idol from our side?
Similar
But
in the voting,
okay,
I guess there's no auditions
gotcha.
it's straight to song, three
Straight
minutes,
come in singing.
singing,
Okay,
3 minutes. There's a show that, it's voted on performance, song, stage show. So, and it's which one gets you most, which one moves you most.
right.
But the voting is similar in the sense that everyone gets to vote at the end of the show, but the
Okay.
public, but they also have a jury. So they get the jury votes in each country. Yeah, of course, you can't vote for your own country,
Yeah,
but each country delivers their votes and their top 12,
gotcha.
10, I think. So yeah, so it's in a way, The Voice, X Factor,
Okay, yeah,
Pop
yeah.
Idol, it's kind of a similar kind of competition, apart from it's about the song and the artist, but the song and the artist is a new song, has to be a new song.
And it's been around longer.
It's been around a lot longer. Yeah. It was one of the, if you think, so Simon Cowell for me is genius with putting
Yes.
TV and
Yep.
music together. This
Yep.
was one of the first things where TV and music came together before videos.
Okay.
So you watch the performance and the song, and you realize a lot of my connections
Yeah.
aren't just music; it's music and visual. And I think one of my biggest ones was I always remember was 10 years ago. Sat down, put the TV on. There was an episode of Incredible Hulk. And
Yeah.
at the end of the Incredible Hulk, they had this da na 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 da na na na. It's a famous piece of music. I
Yep.
started to cry, and I was like, "Why am I crying?" And it was because, as a 6-year-old boy, I used to watch this same program, and I was always upset because David Banner had to leave town because he
Yes.
was always
Yep.
they always started to know he was the Hulk,
Yep.
and it was that trigger memory back to that moment. I was like, I'm not, so I'm as a 35-year-old, whatever, crying because of a 6-year-old boy's memory.
Yes.
That's how powerful music and visuals are together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have that effect. I'm a little bit older than you are, but I have that response to music um, for whatever reason as well. Like I can hear a song and it'll move me to tears,
Yeah,
and everybody else may just be enjoying it, but I'm feeling it viscerally on a different level
yeah,
um, than what everybody else is because it's so powerful. And I think that's the beauty of music is it
mm.
has that ability to go beyond surface level.
It's
Um,
connection again, isn't it?
yes,
Connection.
it is.
My grandmother, she passed away now, but the last few couple of years she had dementia.
Okay.
Also, and I remember going to visit her, and it's not like the same person; she just wasn't there. And it was Christmas. So, and my daughters were probably 5 or 6 at that point. They'd just done their first Christmas nativity show,
Hmm.
and they'd sung Silent Night. So
Okay.
I said, "Oh, why don't you sing the carol?" They sang. Up she sat and sang the whole thing with them. And then at the end, when they were finished, she sang a verse we'd never heard. And then she went back.
Wow.
At Easter, when we went back up again, we just sang Christmas carols. And it was like we could connect her back in through music and song, which I think
Isn't
that's powerful. That tells us something. There's a deep connection deep
yeah,
down that we don't lose, even at
isn't
that.
that amazing? It's amazing that that is something that triggers the mind and the brain
Hmm.
to refocus back into a state where it was truly connected.
Yeah, which is why I guess we have these memories back to they're there deep somewhere. I'll
Yeah,
taste a piece of music and you'll be like, "Ooh, I'm back in that moment,"
yeah,
and tears. That's weird, but it's connecting you.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I think that's again probably one of the most powerful things about songs and music is it connects people, it connects us with ourselves.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I just think that's probably the magical bit, which I love. It's powerful.
it is. It is definitely. as you're having this success with Eurovision and you're seeing all these things taking place, at what point do you decide, I think I need to write a book?
COVID.
Okay.
And I think this is probably lots of people would say that during COVID. Again, I was thinking about, you think about, I think I read a book which said, what would you like on your gravestone?
Okay.
And it's legacy. You think about
Oh,
it, it's not like Greg was successful. It's Greg left something for us. Greg left some direction. Greg left a legacy.
yeah.
So at that point, I started writing a life story. And then, of course, when we went back from a lot of the life story's got musical parts in it because it's part of my life. Um, and then we went back to work, and then it got busy. And then 2023 Christmas, I saw an advert, a guy called Joshua Spragg, who sort of says, help you write your book in 30 days,
Okay.
$29. And I was like, I need to finish this book. So I bought it, and he just sends an email out every day giving you a bit of structure.
Yeah.
And one of the first things was give yourself uh, can't remember, forfeit if you don't finish it, this or a reward. And I'm not really a forfeit person. I'm rebellious. It doesn't make me do it. But I had this song camp in Spain in March, and I thought, well, okay, 30 days. I knew when I started, wouldn't be able to start. So if I got to the song camp, but reward was basically if I get to the song camp 4 days before, I can have a holiday. But if I'm still haven't finished, I have to finish the book whilst I'm on holiday. So that's my reward. So I arrived on the holiday and finished the book on like the first morning. So I got three and a
Yeah.
half days. So book finished, then it's editing, that takes ages. Then I had back surgery last year.
Oh, wow.
And I had a year and a half of not being able to walk very well and really being in pain and having to use a wheelchair through airports and things like that.
Yeah.
But I had this back surgery in the June and it gave me a month off. So which is recovery and blah blah blah. So I thought, well, I'm going to finish. The book needs to come out at this point. Need to finish the editing, finish this. So I paid for something to help me launch it, basically. Which I then realised I couldn't really do myself during this period. I needed a bit more focus, but I did manage to write 18 chapters of book two, which is about Eurovision. So, but I then basically carried on that process as I got better, and it was released in October. So firstly, it was legacy. Then, and I missed really during 2022. I started mentoring. So what happened was my life story about the music. Then I tell that as part of a guide to songwriters.
Yeah.
So the story is relevant, very because it's me growing up in music. It's some of the stuff I've said here. It's the recording, and then it's my advice as I went along and breaking it down into sections for songwriters, but using the stories. Um,
Okay.
because the mentorship felt like, oh, this is me telling, and I need to tell this part of the story. So it was a songwriter's guide plus life story in that part. So
Yeah.
I think the life story makes it more real and relevant. I'm not just people know who I am, and I've been through that to actually then be able to give them advice. So
And was the part about neurodiverse creatives, was that a lot from your memory as a kid of talking with, I believe you said his name is Rob, the weather guy?
mhm.
Um, was it from those types of experiences as well as what you're experiencing with your daughters, the twins?
um,
Or was there other things
uh,
outside of those that
uh,
you've seen over the years?
I think my whole family is on the spectrum.
Okay. Gotcha.
Close to, I didn't know, but certainly one of my siblings is.
Okay.
Now he's being diagnosed. Then we
Gotcha.
think, actually, it's obvious my dad is, isn't he? He's been playing games as a PE teacher.
Yeah.
But he's not. It's interesting. One of the versions is. I remember when we were having one of mine diagnosed that they were like, "Are they suicidal?" It's like, no, they're not that at all. They're in a happy place.
Yeah.
Might be in a world of their own, but they're happy in it, in a sense. So my dad's
Right.
kind of been like that, I think, and which is why no one really noticed because
Yeah.
it's just playing games. But he was running the football every team. He was brilliant at it, but he was also would, the thing that he would do wrong was he would take practical jokes way too far.
Okay.
and the other teachers would be like, this is a bit weird. He's starting to
Yeah.
leave kippers in the drawer, and you know,
Right.
which is funny at first, but then if you do it three times after being told not to, you know, so it's
Yeah.
those sort of. So it's from that. It's from a lot of the songwriting mentorship I've done. I'd say 50% I've come across are on ADHD or autistic spectrum, I would say.
Yeah.
And so it's unraveled as I've done that. I'd say the book, I don't know if I discuss it massively in this book. I touch on it in areas, um, just through some of the stories in that
Okay.
sense. I have I've run a neurodiverse course where,
Okay.
and I've also will be writing a full book on it in a sense at some point because it is more and more interesting as we go. But it
Yeah.
is literally, I'm talking to someone. I had some conversation earlier with someone, and it came up, and it was obvious. And actually, it's interesting. We connected even more because of it, because I was
Yeah.
able to share the same empathetic thing.
Yep.
That's interesting. There's two people in the studio next to me who are definitely on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So you gather them around you, and I think it's partly because that thing about my family was I didn't know, but I then went kind of looking for these other quirky people
Yeah.
who needed something without thinking about it. It's unconscious. And then
Right.
if I look around me, it's a lot of my world has genius, superpower people who
Yes.
probably are on the spectrum as well.
Right.
But I don't see that part. I see the superpower genius people, and I'm using them in my business and in as friends. Not using them as the wrong word, but I'm helping them.
Working with them.
I'm
Yes.
working with them, and they're definitely helping me as well because I've got these people who are genius at certain things.
Yeah.
And I guess my gifting is unlocking. I'm unlocking them, and actually also the belief because a lot of them don't believe in themselves.
Yeah. That's the disappointing part of what society has done, uh, whether purposefully or inadvertently. It's the individuals who are a bit different, who don't fit into societal's mode of what you should be or you should act like or how you should respond or anything like that.
Yeah,
It creates that self-doubt in them.
yeah,
And me myself, I've always had ADHD and you know, never been told that that's what it was until later in life,
mm,
in therapy and stuff. But I always have that empathy. I'm very empathic
mm,
towards others. I can sense energies even
yeah,
in a room before I sense anything else. But I've always had this perspective of wanting to make sure that if I came across somebody, as you did with Rob, the weather guy, that I engaged with that person
mm,
to let them know that, hey, there's at least somebody here that understands you
yeah,
and is okay with who you
yeah,
are, right? Because all it is, from my perspective, is just a different way that their brain processes information.
mhm,
And
yeah,
that's just how they operate, is because
yeah,
it's a different way their brain is processing
yeah.
what's around them, what they see, how they communicate, all
I,
of it.
I'm, I'm going to make a radical statement
Okay.
live on your program. I think neurodiverse people think the way we're supposed to,
Yeah.
because I think they're people that ask questions and challenge. And if you look at people that have changed history, it's often
Yeah.
neurodiverse people who invented something, who they
Yes.
wouldn't have invented it if they were not disciplined enough to keep going with the same. The guy who did, I can't remember his name now, is the Enigma machine
Oh,
in World War II, and he
yeah.
unfortunately killed himself. Recently, the UK have given him a posthumous pardon and said sorry, and because they targeted him as a communist, and it was nonsense. Um,
Right.
but they put him on the £50 note. I think he's now so. But he wouldn't give up this code. He was looking for this code,
Yeah.
and without it, we may have lost World War II.
Right.
And people were telling him, "Don't be stupid. You're never going to find it." This is exactly what they say to songwriters: "Don't be stupid. You're not a songwriter." Blah, blah. Or you're at school, you're just a bit thick, you're stupid, That's what I keep hearing people tell me. I've been told I'm not good enough. I'm told I'm stupid. It's like, no, you're just different to how that. And the thing is, they don't understand you, so they label you as something negative. When
Yeah.
the truth is, isn't it better to be that person who thinks outside the box than the person who just conforms, conforms, conforms?
Yes.
So I kind of see and actually, even there's some places like I don't know about CIA, but MI5 and MI6, so our spy
Right.
networks, are now
Yeah.
hiring autistic
Yeah.
people because they have this thing about seeing numbers in a different way and they can
Yep.
decipher codes, same as
Yeah.
the. So it's not just that, but creative people are wired to create. Actually, I watched whilst I was off for the month, I got to watch lots of great TV. I watched the Beatles documentary and I watched John McEnroe's documentary and it's interesting. And I watched Star Wars. Um, and I'm watching John McEnroe and I thought, he didn't say, but he mentioned he might be autistic. He might be on the spectrum somewhere. But you watch him, the reason he
Yeah.
was so good is he went and
Yeah.
he trained and he trained and he trained and he trained and the others were out playing. And then he had these outbursts. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember. And actually that's autistic behavior.
Yeah.
And actually, when he saw the ball was in, it didn't look good because he argued with the referee. And I'm not saying you should argue with the referee, but he was
Right.
right. So he was
Yeah.
feeling it was just, unjust.
Yep.
Nowadays, the telly would probably, the camera thing would, what they do would probably tell him he was right.
Yeah.
So, and I don't, and watching the Beatles, they were channeling something. They were writing, um, whatever this Get Back. It was that album, Get Back. So they had
Yeah.
that big long documentary, which I've never watched before because it's so long.
Mm.
And I could see they were writing the songs. I'm sitting there thinking, it's just like we write songs. We sit there, it's always like la 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 la, la. And then the words come in gibberish and the words come in. But it's
Right.
like you're watching it thinking, from the outside it looks weird, but they're channeling something
Yep.
that's, I'd say, normal people
Right.
can't. And I'm not saying they are autistic, but I got a feeling that at least one or maybe two of them are. And if they hadn't found each other, we might not have had the Beatles.
Oh, for sure.
Because you watch it in processing. There's something not abnormal because I know
Right.
but it's not the normal world functioning. It's receiving a creative gift from somewhere. It's almost like the vessel's open, the channel's
Yes.
open. We've
Exactly.
got the channel open to hear stuff, so we're going to, and there's and then I think what's actually being taught at schools is close the channel. Don't have anything. Don't, everything must be business. Everything must be maths
Yep.
and academic, and therefore you don't get to hear the creativity stuff, and the creative
Yeah.
stuff is part of the world. One more last thing. I watched Spartacus, the original movie. Not I have watched the program, but the original movie. There's a point where Tony Lee Curtis' character comes on, and Spartacus says to him, "What do you do?" And he says, "I'm a flute player." And Spartacus is like, "What? We don't need flute players. What are you talking?"
Right.
And then next scene, he hears a flute and he goes over and he sees the army relaxed, at peace. And it's like, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
So you do need an army, but you also need the people that play their instruments and make people relax. And during COVID, everyone was at home watching TV, listening to music,
Yep.
because so the only way to escape was to go into that world.
Yeah. I think that's the power of creativity. And from my perspective, it's across all mediums
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well. It's that, again, it's like you said, it's the opening of the vessel. It's allowing that channel
mm,
to open up so that that spark of genius can come through. And
yeah,
when it does come through, like it touches so many.
yeah.
Um, and I believe that's a connection to the divine.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and I
the
think and if you can use it right, the idea is it can touch.
Yes.
I remember there's so much music that's touched me, and I've felt one way about it, and then someone else has said, "Oh, I felt that way about it." You think, really? That's totally different to how I imagine it. And George Michael's, a big George Michael fan, big rapper, but I really struggled with his album Older. It was a bit sad. It
Yeah,
definitely got sadder towards the end. And then when he died, I couldn't listen to that album at all. I had to put the Wham up-tempo stuff on.
yeah,
But then I read stuff and everyone's like, I'm so touched by that album. And you look at it, and the reason they're touched is because he's singing in that album about losing his mum
yeah,
and also losing his first lover, in a
yeah,
sense, the guy from Brazil. So he's got these feelings that he's deeply emotional about, and the reason I don't connect very much with it is I probably haven't had that situation.
right, right.
I haven't lost my mum. I haven't, but there's lots of people in the world who have lost a loved one like that, and it deeply connects. And he's had to go through. This is what we say a lot as songwriters. There's like a blessing and a curse thing.
Oh
You
yeah,
almost have to go through horrible, horrible situations to be able to write about them.
yeah,
They get released, and then there's people around the world getting some sort of therapy from it, which I believe is, as you said, it's a divine connection because it's being used for
right.
something much bigger than our own purpose.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I've literally used those words, blessing and a curse,
Hmm.
to describe my creativity over the years because
Yeah.
I've been able to do so many different things creatively and across multiple industries that as much as, people tell me I'm fantastic at it, I have such talent from a mental state, not being able to stay in something that you're vibing with, you're feeling, and you're channeling, you're
Mm.
feeling that energy come through you and what you're working with. Um, and just because of economics of particular industries, at certain times, you just, it just ends, right?
Mm.
Like the fashion, I did fashion for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and it just became a scenario where fashion was changing so much that what I was doing, there wasn't a market for it any longer.
Mm.
And so I had to pivot into something else.
Yeah.
And, graphic design or branding and website stuff, that again, that's just another pivot into
Mm.
another creative field that I have the ability to do.
Yeah.
Fine art is what I started out doing because I could draw.
Yeah.
Um, and it's the scenarios of being able to tap into that creativity and feel that inside of you. And then when you have to shut it down in order to operate in the world, that's when it starts to feel like that curse
Yeah.
because you're not able to allow it to move through you any more longer. You got to shut
Yeah.
it off.
Yeah. And I think that actually, as a creative person, certainly learnt that when the people that come to me saying I've done this, but it never left me, it's true. It's
Right.
there. It's got to
Yes.
go somewhere, you know.
Yep.
So eventually it will come out because you're creative, you know.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Just
It,
almost close, as you say, close the channel for a bit, but
yeah.
it's still there.
Yeah, and same thing for me. Like it's always there. It
Mm.
it never leaves. It's just a matter of how can I now present it again.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we discussed this early on. I'm able to present it in the podcast scenario of being able to have discussions, which in and of itself is a creative process. As it's a back and forth of listening to each other and then, working off of that to carry on the story of
Yeah.
another person's life and their life journey.
Yeah.
Um, so it's amazing of all the different uh, people that we come across that are creatives, and we look at them and we see the the gold that flickers within them.
Mm.
And a lot of times they don't have that or can't see that within themselves. And I think the position that you and I are in currently allows us to be able to help them see that gold,
Yeah.
highlight that for them.
Yeah. Yeah, which is important because it's there ready, but they
Yeah,
just need to be open to believe that they've got to share it in a sense.
yeah. Is there, have you, or is there any thought of coming to the States to present uh, things that you do in terms of your mentoring or your songwriting
Um,
events or different things like that?
I I tend to go where I'm invited. So
Okay.
again, so it's a bit like you. I think you said Kid Rock said,
Yeah.
go where you're celebrated.
Yep.
So I do like I'm in Barbados in April because
Okay.
I'd met someone from Barbados and they said we would love you to come and do something here. And it's because you're invited,
Yeah.
it's so different. You've got,
Yeah.
so I'm totally open to it. I'm
Okay.
totally, wherever I'm led, I feel I will go. I have been to LA and Hollywood a few times as a writer 10, 15 years ago. Um, but certainly if I'm led there and if I'm invited, then I would be very open to it. But I
Gotcha.
kind of wouldn't force myself on it because I think you're then trying to sort of swim in a water you don't really know the
Yeah.
conditions, so. And
Yeah.
usually
Absolutely.
I find a partner. There's a partner happens and they say, can you come and do this here? Because there's someone's knows the logistics, so they can
Yes.
handle the logistical sides. I can just come and do the creative part. So,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
I'm not going to Barbados all on my own. I'm going, and there's someone in Barbados who's sort of preparing the way.
Yes.
So yeah,
Okay. And did you say you've got another second book that you're working on?
I'm working on it. I'm nearly finished it. I've got two books I'm working on. One is basically I've written a lot of it. It's about Eurovision.
Okay.
My initial thing is about how to win Eurovision, but I haven't won yet. So I'm wondering whether I release it as a Eurovision journey and then add those bits, or whether I wait a little bit longer and release it.
Gotcha.
It's hard to win, but I am really fine tuning things down to try and win it. Second one is neurodiverse. I haven't got the title yet, but it's about neurodiverse songwriters.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And that will take longer, I think, because I'm going to have to do some more research and things like that. But there are ideas forming. Eurovision one's actually nearly pretty much written
Okay.
so far, story so far. I just need
Gotcha.
to know when's the actual time to release this, in a sense.
Right.
I think with that, so the first one I published myself, I kind of found someone to help me publish it in that sense. I
Yeah.
think with the Eurovision one, I'd like a it'd be good to get a bigger publisher to
Okay.
actually help launch it because I think Eurovision itself, certainly in the European side, is probably more songwriting book is interesting for songwriters, but Eurovision could be interested for songwriters plus everyone who loves Eurovision.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger audience than just the songwriters.
For sure. With storytelling and writing songs, how important for an up and coming artist is it for them to understand that their personal story means just as much as a story they may be trying to create out of nothing?
I think it depends on which genre they're in a little bit. But most genres, it's about being authentic now. Even Eurovision, when a while ago it was about pitch a good song and get it. Now everyone has to really believe the artist is singing something that's come from them or it authentically feels like them. Or so, and I think actually what we were talking about, one of the things, life is about telling your story. And whether
Hmm.
you do that as what you got to remember in a song or in a Eurovision song or whatever, songs are about 2.5 minutes, three. It's hard to tell your life story in that particular.
Right,
So in my day, you do more storytelling there's an album and that tells one chapter of our life,
right.
and probably say, whereas now it's segmented little bits and it's about hooks and, Spotify doesn't pay. I think it's only pays after 28 seconds. So everyone's got the hooks at the front, which if you've got the hook at the
Okay.
front, it gives away the story because the
Yeah,
so it's hard to write from that. But I think tell your story authentically as an artist through the songs you write,
yeah,
I would say. So there doesn't have to be in one individual song, but I think it's what you present as a collection and how you grow in it.
yeah, for sure.
I think that becomes more and more important. Now we've got AI.
Yes.
And everyone and their dog can actually create a song now. I
Yeah.
think the authenticity is really important because that's what's
That's
going to stand out the crowd, in a sense.
that's what I was just about to ask is what your feeling was on that because I agree 100%. I don't think that creatives need to be afraid
No.
of AI because exactly what you said, the authenticity rather is what is going to shine through.
Hmm. Yeah, I use ChatGPT,
Hmm.
not for songwriting necessarily, but I use it for writing things up. And I know some songwriters are using it, and we use Suno sometimes for developing the
Okay.
demo because you can go from here's our demo to just like, oh, it sounds good. Okay, let's make. We'll then do the production here and
Yes.
make it. So I think that's, although you have to be a bit careful because they keep changing the terms and conditions. Um, but I did. I mean, it's interesting. I did a couple of podcasts last week, and on the second one, I suddenly thought, these are the same questions I had on the first one, word for word.
Wow.
So it was like, and I suddenly thought, they've put my book in, or something about, they've obviously used the same section, put it into ChatGPT, said, can you ask some questions? And it's come up with, so
Oh my word.
ChatGPT, you could, and I think this is the same songs, if you ask, can you make this? It's only got the same amount of things it's learned. I think it could churn out the same thing.
Yeah. I've seen that many times
You
over.
can see it, people are on social media. Again, I'm using, and then you look at it and go, it's done this thing, da 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 da, 3 lines, 1, 2, 3, da da
Yep.
da da, 3 lines, da, da, and you're like, I can see it's written by, and no, this doesn't matter because it's quite poetic and it's well, but actually I use it to help enhance what I've done. So I'll write
Yes.
this thing and then I'll take some of it out because it's enhanced it too much, or
Yeah.
but actually you can see, yeah, this post, oh, that's exactly the same as that post from someone else, and it's maybe different words, but or because it's a different subject matter, but it's framed it almost exactly the same. So I think you have to be careful.
Yes, absolutely. I know I've had quite a bit of frustration with ChatGPT because I'll be utilizing it as a tool to help me flesh out an idea. And it'll get to a certain point where it starts just repeating itself.
Yeah,
And I'm like, wait a second, that's not go back
yeah,
up to the
yeah.
first question.
We've already asked you this. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so I just recently I stopped using it because it was doing that too often with me.
Hmm.
So I pivoted over to Claude and Perplexity,
Okay.
especially Perplexity because it gives you annotations of where it's pulling the information from.
Right.
So I've started using those a bit more. But again, don't be afraid of AI. Look at it
No, no.
as a tool to assist you, not do your work completely for you
Yeah.
because
I
it's
see it like a synthesizer, like synthesizers, like the recordings we had.
yes, yeah,
Synthesizer in the early 80s, Howard
yep,
Jones, Thomas Dolby, and Herbie Hancock were banned from the Grammys.
yeah,
2 years later, they won the Grammys. So
right,
it's just like we're scared of stuff. And I think if it's a tool, and I think this is the problem, you kind of need to embrace it and use it rather than get completely left behind. But for the writing bit, I'd be on songwriting. I'd be careful at the moment because I don't know who owns what. That's the
right,
so, and I've got a lawyer next door keeps saying, "Be careful, be careful." She's a writer, and
yeah,
she's and the problem is we do lots of co-writing. America, UK,
yeah,
Europe,
yep,
they've all got different laws.
right.
So that's dangerous because you'll be
That
protected by one law, I'd be protected by something else. Then where do we stand? Oh,
exactly. And again, too, that's a powerful piece of information for the audience out there. People that are starting out, they're starting to uh, create or collab even. Like you've got to be aware of those things because a lot
yeah.
of times they're not, and then eventually it becomes a problem later on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you go, remember I said about I took Duran Duran lyrics.
Yeah,
It's very similar. I mean, I never used a full sentence. I'd
right.
take one word, I'd create my own sentence. So
Yep,
it's kind of no different to when you put in bits in ChatGPT and saying, "Can you make that in?" But I'd always, you veer, as you said, I wouldn't use a full sentence.
right.
So I put this in. Can you make it that line a bit better? Okay, it makes them fine. But I think if it's, you know. People are going, "Can you write a song?" And the whole song's like, "Oh yes," and then saying, "I've written this song." I think that's very dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
we'd never know. So
Right. Well, Greg, this has been an amazing journey through your life story. I
thank you.
truly appreciate you taking the time to share with the audience because it's powerful,
Great.
very
No, it's
powerful.
been great to share. And you said it's just been strong conversation, which has opened up quite a few interesting thoughts as for me as well as we go. So
Yeah, yeah.
thank you.
At
Yeah.
the end of each one of these episodes, I just want to always kind of give the audience a gentle reminder, and this is self-evident in your journey, that reminder for the audience is to always listen to your heart,
Hmm.
but in the same breath, be kind to your mind.
Yeah, I agree.